everybody. Welcome to RPM, Rock and Pop Mandolin, your destination for learning classic rock and pop songs on this wonderful little 8-stringed instrument. My name is Mike DeJong, and today we are going back to the early 1960s and a Beatles classic, an early Beatles classic called I Feel Fine. Again, a rockin' guitar tune originally that you can play quite well on the mandolin. It's a really fun little finger workout for your left hand to get those little chord patterns down. It's really fun. It's a little tricky. You know, the Beatles sounded easy, but their songs, some of their songs were easy, but others were not so. And this one requires a little bit of effort, but once you get it, it's a lot of fun. But before we get into the lesson today, please, if you are new here, welcome to the channel. Thank you very much for checking us out. But don't forget to please hit that little red subscriber button before you leave us today. If you are a returning subscriber, thanks very much once again for your ongoing support. And if you don't mind, please consider supporting us over on Patreon. The link is down below. I'll be posting some beginner mandolin lessons over there and some product reviews and looking at some of the equipment that I use, all of those types of videos that will not be here on RPM, which is dedicated only to pop and rock songs. But that's enough business talk for today. Let's check out this Beatles tune, I Feel Fine, for mandolin here on RPM. All right, everybody, let's dive into this Beatles classic. It starts off with a guitar riff that's played in, well, the first part of the pattern is played in D, although the song is in the key of G. So let's look at that pattern, and I'll show it to you slowly at first. It goes... Okay, so what is that pattern? Well, it's, as I said, it's a D, the first part of it, so it's like a little D arpeggiated run there, and then it moves to a C, and then it moves to the G. All right, so let's look at that D pattern first. Start off with the D note, the open D string here, and you go to the D octave there, which is at the 5th fret of the A string, and you just, so you hit that 5th fret, and then 3rd fret, and then open. And the picking pattern is, so you hit that note there, that D note, a couple of times. So, and by the way, this type of pattern is used throughout all of the chord sequences here. So this is over a D chord sequence, and then the next one would be over a C, and then we have the G, but it's always the same picking pattern like that. So once you learn that first pattern, just use it over the other chords. So here we go. All right, so the first part I showed you here, then you jump up to the E string, right? So what's that? Well, that's 3rd fret, 2nd fret, open, 2nd. There's that little at the end of the pattern, so. And it's really staccato. I'm using downstrokes here to really give it a little bit more bite, so. You see the little bit of bite there on that last part? All right, so that's over a D. And actually the chord in the song is a D7. So you're playing that over a D7, and then you go to a C7 and a G7. Those are the main chords throughout the verses of the song, all right? So we got that part. Now we shift down to a C chord, and you do that same little pattern, but just over the C. So C octave, which is here and here, all right? So you got your C note, which is the 5th fret of the G string, up to this C, which is the 3rd fret of the A string, so, right? So the same picking pattern as I said before on the D, it's just, all right, so what are we doing there? Well, all right, so 3, 1 of the A, and 5 of the D string. So one more time. And then you go up to the high string again and you do a similar pattern, but it's just over C, so it's like that. So what's that? Well, that's a 1st fret on the E string, and then open, and then 5th fret here on the A, back to the open. So that C pattern is... All right, so let's put those two patterns together, the D and the C. All right, one more time. All right, and then finally, you're ready to move down to the root, which is the G, and you play that same pattern just on these strings. Right, so that's your G note here, open G, and then again the octave, right? All right, so you're going to the octave here, same pattern again. This time on the D string, 5th fret, and 3rd fret, and open, right? And then up to the A string, you're going 3, 2, open, 2, right? So one more time on the G. And that G pattern continues all throughout the verses of this song before they modulate to the D and then the C again, all right? So I'm going to show you the verses here very slowly. All right, so you notice I ran up to the D chord there in the verses. All right, the D arpeggio, actually, not just the chord. In the original version by the Beatles, there's a little ascending pattern that goes, right? So like that, off the G. So what is that? Well, that's from the 3rd fret of the A string to the 5th, and then once again that little lick on the E string, 2, 3, 2, open, so, right? So once again it goes from the G. So you start off on the D, and then you go into I'm in love with her, I feel fine. So once again you go from I'm in love with her, and I feel fine, like that. Excuse my singing, sorry about that, Beatles fans. But it comes down from that lick. You're still on the D chord, so I play it like this. I play a little D voicing here to a C voicing to the G. All right, so what is that D voicing here? Well, it's the 4th fret of your D string, and then the 5th fret of the A. And just shift that down 2 frets to the C, 2nd fret and 3rd fret here. So I'm in love with her and I feel fine. Right on the G, back to that G pattern. So one more time through the verses. I'll shorten them a bit here. So and those are the patterns for the verses in I Feel Fine. Now there's a chorus part in this song that's pretty neat. It employs a G chord, and then a B minor chord, right? And then C to D, right? She's my little girl, I'm telling all the world, right? And that's a G chord with this kind of strumming here. So what am I doing on that G chord? Well, it's like da, 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 like that. And that's a B minor chord, so you're at the B note here, which is the 4th fret of the G string, 4th fret of the D, and then 5th fret here of the A string, right? So, and it's just a couple of beats there, and then a C chord and a D chord. This time I'm voicing a little bit fuller D chord, utilizing this note here on the 2nd fret of the G string. So C to D. Little girl, she's so fine, telling all the world. Right? And then back to that lick again. Okay, those are the verses and the choruses for the song. There's also a little guitar solo in the song, which is a little tricky. All right, so you can play that just like this. I'll simplify it a little bit, taking out one note. I hope you don't mind because it works better that way. But if you want to play it the exact way, find the tab. You should be able to figure it out. So I do it like this. All right, so what am I doing there? Well, I'm sliding from the 5th fret here on the G string to the 7th fret, so, and then hitting the 3rd fret, which is an F note here on the D string, so, and then that same pattern, just shifted up 2 frets, you go, all right, so from the 7th to the 9th on the G, right, and now you're hitting the 5th fret here, so, then you come back down to that same as the first one, and then like that, okay? And so the last bit of that little lick is just, now on the guitar version, on the original version, there's a D note in there. But I find that a little difficult here on the mandolin, so I'm just going to simplify it to use the C note there, C, B flat, G. So you end the lick with a little hammer on from the 5th fret to the 3rd fret to the open, like that. Just one pick. And then pick on the G, so you don't pick the 2nd note, like that. So one more time. And then you're into the... So then you jump all the way up to that D, and you do that pattern again, and then I'm in love with her, and I feel fine. Back to the G pattern. Okay, that is the Beatles' I Feel Fine for mandolin, another fun song to play from the Fab Four. I hope you get it down quickly, and I hope you enjoy playing some of those fun little runs. Thanks very much for tuning in to RPM, Rock and Pop Mandolin once again. We really appreciate your support. Don't forget to check out our Patreon link down below. I'm Mike DeJong. Thanks very much for watching RPM.